I couldn't get any sleep. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. I was wide awake because there is something crucial I need to share with you. I genuinely don't grasp what the purpose of our existence is, yet I'm certain that you hold the answer. Please, you're the only person who can truly assist me. I'm not saying this just to create drama. I'm not saying it to seek comfort or validation. I mean this in the most literal sense imaginable, because I have spent years wrestling with this question in my mind, like a rock tumbling in a river, smoothing down every sharp edge in hopes of eventually discovering something valuable and polished underneath. And I constantly end up with nothing. The thing is, whenever I look at you, whenever I genuinely observe how you navigate through life, how you make your choices, and how you focus on what truly matters to you, it becomes glaringly obvious. It's so clear that it's almost painful to watch. You possess something that I lack. You have an inner direction. I just can't seem to locate mine. And I'm not talking about superficial happiness. I'm not talking about those picture-perfect social media moments. The staged laughter, the perfectly staged photos of coffee, or the forced expressions of gratitude that everyone posts at the end of the weekend. I'm talking about a deep, quiet, unshakable conviction that living actually makes sense. That getting out of bed each day isn't merely a routine you follow because it's expected of you. That is precisely what I am missing. And I know I'm not the only one feeling this way. I know you've experienced it as well, at least a variation of it. Perhaps during a quiet, ordinary weekday afternoon when nothing was particularly wrong and nothing was particularly right, and you simply sat there questioning why any of it even matters. But here is what I cannot seem to comprehend. You appeared to have emerged from that dark place. You seem to have discovered a path forward. Meanwhile, I am still lingering at the start of that pitch-black passage, staring inward, completely incapable of taking that initial step. Here is what I've attempted so far. I tried chasing accomplishments. I convinced myself that if I could just reach a specific goal, hit a major milestone, or gain a certain level of recognition, everything would suddenly click into place. I achieved all of that. I met the targets. I acquired everything I claimed I wanted. And do you want to know what happened? Absolutely nothing. Nothing changed. The inner void didn't fill up at all. It merely went quiet for a brief moment, just long enough for me to realize it was still present. And then it returned even louder than before. I tried finding the answer in relationships. I looked to the people around me with an intense, desperate longing, thinking if I could just find someone who truly comprehends me, who truly recognizes me, and who loves me unconditionally, then I would finally feel complete. And I met people, wonderful people who genuinely tried. But there was always an internal barrier inside me that neither they nor I could cross, simply because I couldn't even move past it myself. I would be sitting right next to someone who genuinely cared about me, yet I'd feel this massive detachment as if I were observing myself from across a vast, empty field. I tried keeping myself distracted. I crammed my days with noise, constant plans, endless activity, and the kind of relentless busyness that leaves you far too drained to ponder what you are actually doing. That strategy works for a short period. It functions right up until you're lying awake at night, staring blankly at the ceiling while all that noise fades away, leaving you completely alone with yourself and that same recurring question. I tried analyzing everything. I attempted to think my way out of this trap. I read all the books. I listened to all the podcasts. I sat through endless discussions regarding meaning, life purpose, and existential fulfillment. And do you know what I finally realized? I believe everyone is essentially winging it. I think we are all just guessing. Some people are simply far better at convincing themselves that they aren't guessing. That is precisely why I am reaching out to you, because you aren't guessing. I can tell. I don't know how I know, but I just do. There's a distinct quality in individuals who have discovered their purpose. It isn't flashy. It isn't loud. It's subtle, almost quiet, yet completely undeniable. They don't constantly need to talk about purpose, because it's seamlessly integrated into the very fabric of their everyday lives. They wake up and get things done, and those tasks aren't always fun, thrilling, or obviously meaningful. But it doesn't bother them, because the overarching picture holds every piece together. I don't have an overarching picture. I only have scattered pieces. I have brief moments where I can almost glimpse something larger, like when I'm walking through a forest and the sunlight filters through the leaves in a breathtaking way, or when I listen to a song that seems to capture a feeling I've never been able to put into words. However, those brief moments never last. They act like flashes of lightning inside a pitch-black room, illuminating everything for a split second before dropping me right back into the darkness. And that darkness feels overwhelming. It isn't plain sadness. It isn't clinical depression, though that might be a component of it. It feels more like a deep, fundamental disconnect from the entire human experience. It feels like being stuck at a party where everyone else is dancing and having fun, while you're isolated in the corner, fully understanding the music and the rhythm, yet completely unable to feel it in your body. You simply can't relax enough to join in. That is what my life feels like. It's like a party I am forced to watch from a window, pressing my face against the glass, desperately trying to catch a hint of the warmth inside. So, how do you handle something like that? What do you do when you've exhausted all the standard answers and every single one has failed you? When you have achieved goals, loved people, kept yourself busy, and analyzed everything, yet you remain standing in the exact same spot where you started. I believe that is the exact point where a person either breaks down or completely transforms. I think that is where the true answer resides, buried far beneath all the surface-level quick fixes that everyone tries to hand you. And that answer isn't a physical object. It isn't a goal you can cross off. It isn't a relationship you can go out and find. It isn't even a mindset you can consciously adopt. It is something far deeper than any of those things. And I genuinely believe you know what it is. Occasionally, I wonder if this burden is simply the price we pay for self-awareness. I wonder if the capacity to ask these deep questions is inherently tied to our inability to ever fully answer them. Perhaps animals don't suffer from this internal struggle. Maybe they simply live, existing entirely in the present moment, eating, sleeping, and going through their days without a constant inner voice perpetually asking, why? However, we aren't animals. We are human beings, and being human means we cannot simply run away from the question. It means we are forced to face it time and time again, until we discover something that genuinely sticks. The truth is, I don't believe the answer is spiritual or intellectual whatsoever. I think it functions more like an instinctual knowing, a truth that lives inside your body, your bones, and your daily routine. It isn't something you can overthink your way into. It is something you have to actively live your way into. I honestly don't know how to accomplish that. I don't know how to silence my own mind to reach the place where true meaning resides. That is precisely where you come in, because you've managed to do it. You've found a way to embody the question, rather than endlessly analyzing it. I don't know what you do for a living. I don't know the details of your daily routine. But I know for a fact that something about you is remarkably different. I can sense it in the way you process things, in how you react, and in the simple fact that you are still here listening to this instead of moving on. You possess something I desperately need. I'm not asking for a secret trick, a formula, or a rigid system. I am talking about a genuine way of navigating the world that feels coherent and clear, something that doesn't collapse into mass confusion the second you stop keeping yourself busy. What does it actually feel like to be in your shoes? What does it feel like to wake up in the morning without immediately sensing that heavy weight pressing down on your chest? What does it feel like to look at your life and recognize it as truly yours, rather than just a checklist of tasks you are completing until a better opportunity comes along? I don't know if I'm demanding too much. I don't know if what I'm seeking is even something one person can pass along to another. Perhaps this is a path every individual is forced to discover on their own. Maybe no one else can point out the exit. Maybe you have to step through it entirely by yourself. Still, I am willing to try. I am willing to hold on to the belief that there is something you can show me, something you can express, or something that will unlock whatever has been frozen inside me, so I can finally start feeling alive again. I am thoroughly exhausted from being a passive observer in my own life. I am sick of feeling detached from my reality, completely unable to immerse myself in any part of it. I want to feel the warmth of the sun on my skin and actually experience it. I want to laugh and feel that joy resonate in my chest, rather than just making the outward sound. I want to connect with someone and genuinely feel that bond, instead of just going through the social motions. That is all I am truly asking for. Not a grand philosophy, not an overall worldview, just a simple path back to real life. And I believe you know how to reach that place. I believe you've walked this path. I think you might even be standing there right now, fully understanding what I'm expressing, because you faced a similar struggle and found your way through it. So here is my core question, and it is the only one that truly matters. What is it? What is that specific element that makes existing worthwhile? What is the force that pulls you out of bed? What gives you the undeniable sense that being here actually matters? Please don't just say it's love. I've already tried love. Don't tell me it's purpose. I've already tried purpose. Don't tell me it's human connection. I've tried that too. Tell me what lies beneath all of those concepts. Explain what makes those things meaningful in the first place, because I suspect I've been searching in the completely wrong direction. I think I've been searching outward when I should have been looking inward the whole time. I believe I've been trying to extract meaning from external things when meaning doesn't belong to things at all. It resides in something far more subtle, something difficult to articulate, something you can't physically point to, but can deeply feel. a quality that colors everything you do, even during the most mundane moments. I often think about people who have endured terrible hardships, genuine trauma, and absolute loss, yet somehow managed to keep moving forward. They aren't doing it out of ignorance. They aren't doing it because they are acting like the pain never happened. They do it because they managed to find something worth clinging to, despite all the suffering. And I desperately want to know what that something is. I want to understand how they uncovered it. I want to know what it feels like to hold that truth in your hands and know it's real. I have spent a vast amount of time out in nature. I visit the lake. I trek to the mountains. I sit, observe, and try to feel connected, and occasionally I do. Sometimes there is a brief moment, a quick flash where everything aligns and I feel connected to something far greater than myself. But it never stays. It continuously fades away, and I am left sitting there in isolation, asking the exact same question. What is our purpose? I realize everyone asks this. I know it sounds like a complete cliché at this point, but I think for most people it's merely a theoretical query. Why we exist is just an abstract thought they ponder occasionally, something to debate over dinner, something that never truly shatters the surface of their everyday routines. For me, it isn't a light thought. It's raw and physical. It feels like an open wound that refuses to close. It acts like a splinter embedded in my consciousness that I simply cannot extract, no matter how hard I try. And I feel like it has only intensified as I've grown older. I think when you are young, you can still buy into the illusion. You can still hold on to the idea that eventually you will figure everything out, and life will finally make total sense. Yet as time passes, and you remain without answers while the world continues to be the same chaotic, contradictory place it has always been, that initial belief begins to fracture and ultimately shatters into pieces. That is precisely where I stand today. The illusion is completely gone. The fantasy has evaporated. All that remains is this raw, unvarnished, unanswerable question, and it is terrifying to face. Yet here is the realization I'm approaching. I am beginning to wonder if the question itself serves as the answer. I'm starting to consider whether the mere fact that I can ask it, feel its weight, sit with it, and let it consume me. Maybe that is the entire point. Perhaps meaning isn't hidden inside a neat answer. Maybe the meaning is actually found within the act of searching. I don't know if that sounds logical. I don't know if it's accurate. But I am beginning to suspect it might be true. And perhaps that is what you realized long ago. Maybe you understood that this question isn't a puzzle waiting to be solved. Perhaps it's simply a constant companion you carry alongside you. Maybe the objective isn't to stop asking questions. Perhaps the real goal is to keep asking them and allow the continuous search to transform who you are. I don't fully know yet. I am still trying to make sense of it all. But I am reaching out to you, and I mean this with every ounce of my being. Please, you are the only one who can help me. Not because you hold all the answers, but because you have mastered living alongside the uncertainty in a way I haven't. Because you have learned to extract value from the journey itself. Because you have embraced the unknown instead of fleeing from it. Because you have learned to sit comfortably with your own confusion and accept it. That is my ultimate goal. I want to become comfortable with not having all the answers. I want to be fine with the emptiness, the confusion, and the fear. I want to stop resisting these feelings and simply start accepting them. And I believe that if I can reach that state of acceptance, I might uncover something even greater. I might discover a way to be truly grounded right here in my own existence, in a way I've never experienced before. So please guide me, not with generic advice and not with prepackaged